David Sutphen, co-chair of the Internet Innovation Alliance. David, you've said that the Democratic Party needs to compromise on net neutrality. What exactly does that mean? Spell out to me concretely the kinds of compromises that the Democrats can make over the next couple of years so we can nail this issue, so we can put it to bed, so we never have to hear about it again.
Well, if we could only pray for that. Well, I think a concrete solution would be to have the Federal Communications Commission, which is the regulatory body here in the United States that's responsible for these issues, and have them sit down, bring together the stakeholders, and come up with a consensus solution. We got very close to it right before the election. There's a powerful congressman who runs the Commerce Committee, had a solution on the table that really didn't get passed, in part because I think Republicans did not want to hand Democrats a victory, so to speak, right before the election, and also didn't want to be seen as being kind of complicit in a scheme to regulate the internet. But on a concrete level, everyone agrees that there should be an open internet. Everyone agrees that the FCC should have some tools to make sure that consumers aren't being harmed. So I think the clear solution is for the Federal Communications Commission to step away from what it has talked about doing, which is to impose a kind of an old 1930s era regulatory scheme called Title II that governed our old black dial-up phones to the internet, and instead move toward an approach which is called Title I, where they collaborate with industry and agree to some ground rules that everyone will abide by. And if somebody happens to do something that harms consumers, that there's an effective, quick opportunity for a regulatory body like the FCC to step in and make sure that that gets solved. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about speculative harms as opposed to real harms. And the other thing I would say is there's millions and millions of Americans who aren't even yet on the internet. So this esoteric debate about net neutrality and Title II, if you're a low-income African-American, Hispanic person who lives in a rural community or a senior citizen who's not even yet on the internet, this debate is kind of an amorphous abstraction that really doesn't have anything to do with your day-to-day life and your ability to get access to the information and cost-saving resources that exist for those who are on the internet.
Do you think one of the problems, though, is that there are some people, particularly in the Democratic Party, who have so vilified large media companies, the large telecoms, that they're unwilling to do a deal with them, that there are people within the Democratic Party who simply need to grow up and understand that these parties, these organizations are just businesses and they're not manifestations of evil?
Well, I think that's a pretty powerful point, and for two reasons. One is we live in an environment now where there is a tech, media, telecom ecosystem. And the way I think about it, it's almost like imagine a fish tank where there's an ecosystem and everyone needs everyone else. Consumers need these companies, the companies need consumers, and you've begun to see even an outlier like Google, which for many years was very strong proponent of net neutrality, suddenly come into the mix and realize the goal is to find balance. The other thing that I think is ironic, I mean, President Obama was the one who has said, politically speaking, if the other side is constantly out telling people that you're the devil, it's extremely difficult when it comes time to sit down and negotiate a deal to tell the people you've been saying the other guy is the devil to justify doing a deal with them. And so I think the underlying thesis of your question is spot on, which is that if you're in the business of just vilifying business because you think that that's going to help build a movement, then essentially what you've done is created a framework in which you can never negotiate. You can never find common ground because you've essentially positioned the other side as evil. And I just think that that's a very short-sighted and ineffective approach to making progress.